Good evening, good afternoon for everybody who are joining us today. My name is Tatiana Koval, and I'm head of the jury of EMBRAS Award. And today I am meeting with two of our jury members, Renita Käsper. Hi, Renita.
Hi.
And Mike Parsons. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Today they are from three different continents. I'm from Brazil, Renita from Europe, and Mike from Singapore, from another part of Asia. So I think it could be very interesting dialogue, because today we will discuss the trends in the sphere of HR, which we should be focused on. We should be prepared for the next, I think, 1 to 3 years. It's very interesting to know what now is more important for HR in different parts of the world. But before we're starting, I want to say what we're doing this because the 10th of October in Tashkent, we will have a ceremony for EMBRAS Award, and also the Great Summit, one of the most important HR events for the Central Asia, will take place 10th of October in Tashkent. And also we will be focused on the most important trends of the cases, the best cases from award, and also for trends which are relevant for the HR in Central Asia. And before we start our dialogue by Mike and Renita, I want to ask you to introduce a little bit for our audience, at least because I think we should know which type of experts participate in our jury, because I'm really proud what you are part of our jury. And the second, I hope after that they could follow you also on LinkedIn, because for me, following you is so inspiring, because I see a lot of very interesting information following you on LinkedIn. So I think, Mike, if you don't mind, ladies first, I will ask Renita and to tell a little bit about you, your professional background. You are not the first time in our jury, but I think that maybe anybody see you first time. So Renita, please, could you make a short introduction?
Yeah, thank you, Tatiana, and hello everybody there now other side we're listening. I'm Renita, currently sitting in Tallinn, Estonia, but normally you find me kind of location free around Europe mostly. Sometimes I also end up in, last time it was in Vietnam for 1 month, but mostly it's between Spain, Portugal, Germany, and Tallinn lately. And I have been, let's say, working 20 years in talent acquisition and employer branding, doing all from the agency side, in-house side, and really coping with the challenges, how to build the best possible like organizations and teams globally, and normally also very distributed and remote scenes like that, or teams need to hire people from, let's say, Australia, Japan, US, back to Europe, and so on, but which comes also very different, like a cultural background, cultural intelligence, and the challenges how to put it all together work. And seems that I also don't have any personal life, because I also part of several juries, lecturing universities, and building few communities. I'm here in Estonia because of we're gonna have our recruitment community event exactly this week, and therefore big fan on the area of talent, and also sharing and learning the places possible. And for jury, I don't know, Tatiana, how long I've been part of the jury. Seems years, it's years already. And definitely would say that I think that the work's going, the project's going more interesting and more deep every year. And I'm actually so proud. I actually talked to somebody that, would you see the project in times back, and you can see the projects now, and there's always so much inspiration, so interesting things. And also I'm learning, that is also that my take, that if I can give back and learn myself, that I think it's just awesome work, what all the companies have done, and Tatiana and all organization.
Renita, thanks for your introduction. Thanks for all you're doing for our award. And next, Mike. Mike, you are the first time on our jury, and thanks a lot for this, because for me, you are one of the most well-known and important person in the global world of employer branding.
Thank you.
I'm really proud what this year you participate in our award as a jury member. And this, could you make a short introduction about you, your professional background, maybe about company which you represent, because it's
absolutely.
a very important company for all the people in the HR world.
Well, thank you, Tatiana. You're too kind. So, hi everyone. My name is Mike Parsons. As you already gathered, I'm based in Singapore. So I'm British. I've lived here in Singapore for 15 years, and for most of that time, I ran the Asian arm of Universum, so the world's largest and sort of oldest employer branding company. Really a talent insights company. So I spent about 10 years just working with talent research, employer brand research. So quite a data-heavy role, but was really great for me. I mean, I got to work with most of the biggest employers around the world, globally, regionally. So that was a really fortunate experience that I got doing that. Now I'm doing a few things. So I'm the CEO of a company called Fathom. So it's very similar to how Universum was. We are a talent research and insights company. We work with employer brand a lot. We do a lot of consulting work around not just employer brand, but culture and many other things. So that's what I spend most of my time doing. But we also have a big passion project, Employer Branding News, or EBN. So I think it's one of the fastest growing media sort of news sites in our space at the moment. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. I spend a lot of time writing and contributing and editing and working with other contributors there as well. So hopefully, I like to think we've always got a bit of a finger on the pulse, like what's happening, what's going on, what are the trends. Hopefully, I've got something to bring today. But that's me, and it's an honor to be involved in the EMBRAS jury. So definitely my first time on this one. I've done a few others. I did the HR Excellence Awards in Singapore. I did the LinkedIn Employer Branding. So I've done a little bit of judging in my time, but first, I'm an EMBRAS virgin until now. But not anymore.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And so we could go with for the discussion. And my first question for you is, I want to ask you what the HR trends are shaping the future of the labor market today. What they should pay attention for the next, I think, 2, 1, 3 years. Mike, because your microphone is switched on, please, could you start sharing your ideas? What the main HR trends you should be focused on in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you shared these questions with me yesterday, I started having a think, what are the biggest trends right now? And I think there's a few that stand out. And there's some obvious ones, which we all know are going to come up. So I'm not going to go there first. I am going to say the skills crunch, the skills mismatch that we've got going on right now. So I think we've got a really weird labor market. And it really depends quite heavily where you are in the world as to what you're experiencing right now. So, I mean, even just today, I saw that in Japan, for example, they've got the lowest rates of unemployment amongst the young that they've ever had. Obviously, you've got a rapidly aging population, not enough talent. If you're a young person in Japan leaving university, it's never been easier or better time to get a job, which is a complete opposite from how things are in the US. This year in the US has been marked quite heavily with quite high rates of youth unemployment. There's never been a worse time to leave university in terms of sort of job prospects. And it's really different from market to market. So I think the skills crunch is one of the biggest things, and that will lead us on to one of the hottest topics this year, which is around reskilling, and also that sort of very bizarre and turbulent feeling recruitment market. I mean, if you've dared go on LinkedIn recently, you're going to see 100 stories about people who've sent 1,000 applications off and not heard anything back. And so there's a lot of that going on. I think certain industries have been really negatively affected. Of course, we're going to talk about AI, because AI, this is a fairly epochal shift. I think we're seeing some massive changes in the labor market, both on the talent side, on the employer side, and it's having some pretty big repercussions through industry. I think the tech industry has been quite heavily hit. You know, we're all familiar with the round after round of layoff in the tech industry. And it's a double whammy. Everyone wanted to work in tech a few years ago. Like, you know, if you looked at Universum's rankings or anything that's just tech companies, it was Google's and Microsoft's. That's all anyone wanted. And now it's very different. And I think if you work in tech, one, you've got AI breathing down your back. You're worried about being automated away. And we all told our kids a few years ago, you've got to be good at coding. You've got to be good at coding. And now we're like, don't do coding because that's the first thing to be automated. But also you've got the huge shift in priorities of all the tech organizations who are taking as much money out of other projects as they can to put it into AI development and the race for, you know, AGI. So, you know, it sort of sucks to work in tech right now. But other industries are flying, you know, and we all hear that there's not enough engineers to go around. If you work in oil and gas, it's fantastic. But things that could be easily automated away, consulting work, those of us who work in HR, you know, things are going to get a bit, I would say, bumpy potentially over the next few years as people figure out what's going on. So I think they're the biggest ones. The one that's closest to my heart, I'm just going to mention one more before I hand over to Renita. I don't want to take everything from her, but if you ask me what I've been talking about the most this year, and you know, I write every week for our blog and things like that, it's trust. And trust is not a topic that I found myself speaking about that much in recent years. And now it's really hard to escape it. And by trust, I mean the erosion of trust and that kind of unspoken contract between employers and talent. You know, you sort of, that's been eroded away. And I think that's really being felt in the younger generations now who aren't coming up and looking at these big, shiny employers and dreaming about working there. I think the trust has really been rattled. And I think what a lot of companies, the wise ones, will start doing is looking at how they can rebuild trust and become, you know, once again, an attractive place to work and retain their best people. And I think that's sort of a big, for me, macro issue as well. So that's the ones that I would highlight. But I don't want to, steal the limelight because I know, Renita, you've probably got a few of your own as well.
Mike, thanks a lot for sharing your ideas. Now I want to give microphone to Renita. It's very interesting to know her point of view, and maybe a little bit we discuss some of the trends which you mentioned. One of them is very, very interesting to me. But Renita, what is your opinion about the trends which will influence the labor market in the future and which we need to pay attention?
Yeah, absolutely. I probably would put some notes. I could actually echo some of what already Mike said, because some, of course, the trends can be, you know, location based, that we have like saying, okay, see something this like happened in Asia, something in US and Europe. But the question of, let's say, entrance level positions in the companies and let's say the junior level positions. Remember, Tatiana, we had the discussion and we did also a piece on like, let's say, article about that how we go about that is there gonna be a junior level positions, or how people enter in the future in organizations, that even like if you think now that those positions are disappearing from the market, or those positions what's really are you know, having automation heavy, that you can actually take those jobs out, that they don't need that how to redesign that piece in organizations, that we still creating this kind of, you know, healthy environment to our like young talent to enter the organizations, because in the future, otherwise we don't have, you know, mid-level talent or senior talent, or, you know, how the path starts. And also like probably people in market already know more, or like favoriting the AI, that they could bring something super valuable already organizations, and they could do, I think, reverse mentoring or something like that, that I think we need to really think over of like, let's say, in the link of human and machine, how we doing things in the future strategically, and how we like reorganize or redesign our organizations, that we would be actually implementing everything which coming from AI, machine learning, and so on, but same time leading it with human in mind. And I mean, it's linked to Mike, the other piece of the trust, that how to put those two pieces working together. And maybe for me, this is also something I have actually taught a lot. And I had this conversation a few weeks ago also in Berlin, that how we're building a learning organizations which are actually adapting to the change fast, and how we're preparing our people also deal with those changes better, like not like just throwing those mental health apps on them when you are like near to the burnout or whatever happening, but how we prepare our people, our organization, from this kind of change heavy environment, because I think we all agree that this will not change. It might go worse what's happening in our environment and world generally, that how we then learn together and prepare better. And one word for me was actually very strongly, I think, curiosity. How I can be people more like, naturally be more curious about things, test things, figure out things, ask more questions and so on, that how we get this kind of develop very curious organizations, which would actually have then, I don't know, lifelong learning, and this curiosity and learning is their DNA or core or something like that, that how that will happen. And definitely what I have felt, let's see, at least in Europe, and talking with the talent professional, recruiting, HR, and so on, people feel very insecure in the future, also insecure of and overwhelmed by tech. Like, and you kind of can't say it because you need to say that you are like, AI heavy and you're learning and doing things, and maybe I should be vibe coding already and whatnot. And people actually felt relieved in this event when I said that, yeah, we all feel that, and it's normal to feel overwhelmed by that, and that you, I don't know, missing the train or something like that, that there's so many things. And every day there come new technology, new add-on, what not. And I don't know, maybe Mike can help me out. I feel that I'm not learning fast enough, or I don't know, putting all those domino pieces together fast enough. And it was so revealing that we were in this one room together in Berlin and said, yes, we all feel that, and it's okay to feel that, and what we do about it. I think this is also something that how we work together with tech, that this kind of human overwhelmness, that I'm still human, not a machine, and they will do it better at the end eventually. But I think maybe Mike, you have like own version of that, how to do it better, and how we can build more curious organizations, and I don't know, more resilient organizations for a future.
Renita, I think so. That's very interesting what focus, Mike and you focus. The technology is one of the important trends, but back to the humanity, to trust, to build trust, to curiosity, to work with people. My next questions for you, it was questions for Mike from our audience, but I think also Renita, I think if you have anything to add, I hope you could share your idea. The question is, how can HR professionals harness technology so what it enhance rather than replace the human factors? So as for me, it's how to make technology more our friends than our enemy if we talk about the future of the labor market, the future of the labor force. So Mike, what do you think about it?
Yeah, what do I think? So I can give you some great examples right now of how we can make new tech that we probably didn't have a year or so ago our friend, and how we can humanize. But I would start by saying, I don't know if that's the goal. I think for us, that's the goal because we want it to be. I think we're passionate about what we do. I think we got into this sort of line of work because, we care, and that's kind of who we are. But I do think the corporate machine will seize the opportunity where automation and tech is concerned to, cut costs. And I think it was, I can't remember, it was one of the big consulting firms, they estimated that the Fortune 500 will save around $1 trillion a year in cost straight off the balance sheet from AI and automation. So I think there's two sides to this. I think it is going to be disruptive in the bad sense, but I think there's going to be a lot of wins as well. So like I said, I work a lot with employer brand, with talent attraction. There's been one of the biggest sort of, maybe not macro trends, but biggest trends this year that we're talking about is geo. So geo is kind of the new SEO. So we used to really care about search engine optimization, right? And we used to say, look, okay, as employer branders, we need to get our story and our message and our EVP out there so that talent in our industry knows who we are, they know what we're about, and they can make informed decisions, and hopefully they'll really want to work for us if they feel that, you know, we resonate with them as an employer. And what they wanted to do was make sure that their content was easily findable, right? And we all said, look, talent is going to go to our careers site, our LinkedIn page. They're going to read some Glassdoor, probably. They're going to do all these things. Talent, no one does that anymore, right? Because what do we do now if we want to find something out online? We go straight to Perplexity or ChatGPT and say, what's it like to work at whichever company? How does it compare working at this company and this company? And it will do all that research and all that legwork for you, and it will come back and tell you. So a really important trend right now is geo, generative engine optimization, as opposed to search engine optimization. And there's a lot that you can do. I could, if anyone needs help, I can show you what to do. There are things you can do for free tomorrow, things that you might need to pay for and invest in to make sure that your geo, essentially what AI is telling talent when they ask it about you, is super optimized. So this is something that I think everyone needs to do, and they need to get on top of if they're trying to compete for top talent in their industry. But the other one that I'll mention, I think this is probably more in line with what you were asking, Tatiana, is really sort of generative content. So I work with a few AI tools already and employers where, so for example, a lot of employers, one of the sort of holy grails of employer branding is employee advocacy, right? We want our employees out there spreading the good word, telling people it's great to work here, sharing all the best bits of the employment experience we offer, right? But people generally didn't do that. What they actually would do instead is, if they were unhappy and disgruntled, they might leave a bad review on Glassdoor. And, you know, so companies worked really hard to build internally these advocacy programs where they'll, you know, recruit ambassadors, train them, make sure they understood the EVP, gave them sort of the tools and empower them to go out and spread the word through their networks on social media, places like that. It's a very difficult and complicated thing to do. It's quite manual, required a lot of people. Companies found they didn't have the resources to sort of build it and manage it ongoing, you know, day after day. And it was a headache. But now we've got tools that just came out of nowhere that take all of that pain away, that they make all of the storyboarding easy. It's done by generative AI. You've got a tool that reaches out to all your employees. It starts picking who's best to tell certain stories based on publicly available information. It gives them the stories, gives them the tools to get them. And then it also bakes in, you know, the deployment of all that content, and it tracks it. It's like you've got one tool that does it all. And I've seen global companies now with one person managing pretty much a company of ambassadors, pumping out more high quality, authentic, employee-led content than they ever thought possible. And I would say that is humanizing, because what do we want as talent at the end of the day? If we're looking at companies, selecting where we might want to work, we don't want to hear what the company has to say, because of course the company's going to say it's amazing and they put L&D first and they really care up until the minute they don't, and all of these things. You want to hear from the employees, right? You want to see what they're saying, what they're doing, what they're experiencing. So I think some of the tools that are coming out now, with obviously AI, you know, layer there, is helping people to see what other people are doing for real. And I think that's a really, really good thing. And I think that's helping open people's eyes to, you know, what it's really like inside companies. So that's probably what I'd say there without taking up too much time. But I think there are other good examples out there too.
Mike, thanks a lot. When you tell about examples how AI help us, I want to share what at the summit in Tashkent, the 10th of October, I will make also a presentation about how to make AI your co-pilot as HR in the projects, employer branding and corporate culture projects. And absolutely agree with you. What now we could use the technology for improving our work as people who are responsible for other people and who are responsible for the company, corporate culture, company, employer brand. And it helps us to focus more on the more interesting tasks. It's as for me, is AI mostly a friend if you understand how you could redesign the work. This is my opinion. I could add it to you because you mentioned very important things to me. I think for people who want to join the summit. And Renita, I also want to hear your version. What HR could do for making AI for us more friends and their enemies, so don't let them to replace us, but helping us to make our work more productively.
Yeah, I think also that it's will not replace it generally what we do. Maybe some pieces what we do, at least currently, I would say, and definitely it's gonna be linked some cost cutting and eventually that business outcome, that's for sure. But coming from, let's say, recruitment and other part of the HR, definitely one place you can use very well is actually the recruitment, certain places where historically there have been getting lots of manual work and let's say hours for a recruiter. There is all those transcript and note-taking tools nowadays, which are actually super good already. That imagine you have all the interviews, they normally recruiter could do even, let's say, 6-10 interviews. And if the real question is, do your brain really remember what was actually discussed in the first meeting and made on the evening? I mean, this is not true anymore, what we actually perceive or how our brains remember things. But now we have all of those transcript tools, which actually can really have you overview what's happened. You can actually send it from let's say second minutes to your hiring manager, or also you probably will not wait for hiring manager or interviewer fulfilling something for a week. I know who else is there on other side who have ever done recruitment. This is the biggest pain there, that you keep writing for your hiring manager, hey, can you have 5 minutes now? Can you have feedback? We need to move forward because we're losing the candidate and so on. Also, it kind of really much, automatizes all the feedback to the candidate and give them also very good and very precise feedback based on the information. I help you to actually compose those messages. And I would definitely say that who is not using something like that, really look into that. And what I like especially about those note takers is that you can use them to train your interviewers and hiring managers to do better. Because for me, let's say just a little data piece here. If they measure how long somebody talked in interview, you can see, okay, your interviewer talked 85% of the time, and then the candidate has this little piece of maybe open their mouth, and then we say, maybe this person is not suitable. But then we look into that and we see that the person actually didn't have any time to even speak about anything. And also that if some topics are covered, if we say, okay, we're doing behavior or value-based interviewing, did these topics really happen? And you can actually search in IAA and ask, okay, did we talk about it? What was the outcome? Blah, blah, blah. And then we can actually really see, and do we have quality interviewing? What is the outcome? What we need to change? Maybe we need to mentor those people participating. I think it's a huge quality boost because this was mostly, say, black box of the recruitment. And then we assume things and then we hire people which we really didn't know that based on what exactly, somebody's gut feeling or something. But now not the AI to take a decision, but this definitely can help out us to be actually more fair training and so on. That's for me, I think I'm just loving those tools, just saying. But I think in HR, first you should probably have very well, let's say, mapped processes, not just throwing tools on AI everything, because if you don't have processes in place, or you don't have documentation in place, or have written files somewhere about Confluence, how you're doing things, then the AI can do those things that you have in a hand, even 10 times worse or 10 times more confusing. Therefore, not like throwing everywhere, but have process in place and see, okay, there we're doing manual thing, there it can help us to be more productive, more effective, and as you said, Tatiana, at the end of the time, give you more time to do human things. But what I don't like the piece, just adding on, and then I let back Mike, that now, as you can see in the face of application, we have the tools who actually, with one click, you can apply, I don't know how many jobs at the same time. And then you can create your CV with AI. And then other side, you have AI and chatbot to checking your CV. And then you see that 3,000 people have actually applied to one job ad. Open up those in LinkedIn. Who gonna actually check those CVs? And then we're actually doing it worse now. The candidate experience goes worse, and people say, as I think Mike mentioned, that you're, I don't know, applying to the, a black hole, nobody's answering you. That therefore I'm saying that where it actually helps and where we know how the tool or technology can help us.
Renita, thanks a lot. It's very interesting that now we could look for the future from the different sides of HR. Thanks a lot for the people in our audience who sent us questions, because I have my own questions, but I see what very interesting questions from the people who now is listening us. I have a question. It was for Mike, but I want also Renita to say to answer. It's about a role of social media, digital platform, when we talk about employer brand promotion. As a person that I not totally agree with Mike, but it's a bit because the person said it's now a social media, digital platform also very, very important. And what should they do for building trust? I think it's really important for us when we talk about employer brand. Building trust for communicate our employer brand. Mike, what could you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if part of the question is what role does social media play, it still plays an important role. You've got to put your marketing hat on for this one and take your HR hat off. And you've got to remember, as an outbound channel, if you want to get a message out there to people and you want to target people and you want to be quite specific with, who you reach, when you reach them, and the message that they receive, you need digital channels. So I think the social media channels and some of the other sort of key digital channels they're still important for outreach. But I think when we talk about sort of the inbound interest in your company, what do you have to do then? I think a lot less so now than in the past. Talent will look for you on social media. They're not going to come necessarily to your LinkedIn page. I think they might even skip your Glassdoor page, but because they know they can get it all in one place now. You just ask the AI and it will tell you. So that doesn't mean those channels aren't important. You have to make sure that what AI goes out and scrapes and tells them is what you want it to be. So if your Glassdoor is a mess and it's not favorable towards you, you need to fix it. And that's now more important than ever. But maybe less people will go on the site. But we've seen through our own testing that if you ask ChatGPT or Perplexity what it's like to work at a certain company, it will summarize all of the reviews that it pulls from there, and it will tell you. It will do the same with Reddit, Quora, all these channels that people don't necessarily search on, and then it will go out and just take articles from the internet. So if you are a company that's quite humble, you don't put too much stuff out there, that's going to start to hurt you. You really need to be getting content out there into the world that tells people what it's like to work at your organization. You need to go out and tell that story. And it almost doesn't matter where you tell it, as long as HR can find it, so long as it's well-indexed content. So put press releases out there, put articles out there, come to me and do a case study with me on EBN about what it's like to work at your organization. We'll help you out. But there needs to be places where when these AI crawls the internet to answer your question, what is it like to work somewhere? It gets back the information you want it to have, positive information that really underlines the strengths of the employment experience that you can offer. So all of these channels are still important. They're just being accessed in very, very different ways now. And that's where people have to adapt and understand how the landscape is shifting quite quickly at the moment. I hope that answers your question.
Mike, thanks a lot. It's why we also today talk about employer branding as one of the most important topic on the summit. It's very interesting what now it's one of the topic for HR the whole world. It's also relevant and why we are focused also on it. And so Renita, what could you add? What is your ideas about the role of social media digital platform in the future for building and communicate employer brand of the company?
I do absolutely agree with Mike on that we need to really watch out there, because then whatever tool you use, ChatGPT, Perplexity, this goes out there and scrape data and gives you right away this overview. Otherwise, you would even probably previously do that I don't know, one platform on other platform and ask neighbor and so on, and maybe not everybody does all the work to have the whole picture. Now it's easy. You just go there and ask, and it all does the work for you. And it's exactly the same example like I did previously on, HR in-house, that this information the tools get or AI get need to be somewhere and need to be correct and need to be a way that you want it. Because also, like, for example, if you use chatbot in a career page or something, it needs to go somewhere to get this information, what you need to actually give there your potential candidates. Therefore, you need to do this kind of pre-work, and it's need to be done like correctly and how you want to be then perceived, or what kind of answers you want people find. Also, like in-house, if the same thing would happen, where this actually the chat then find this information. That's getting more and more important, that you have this all organized and you have it all written down, and the version you want your like in-house employees get or people outside get it. And I think the question was about trust. I think the trust is still the same thing, but I think it's still from inside out. But I think, again, as the, let's say, the tools or AI help us now to get in every channel, or somebody put a post and then those things are not actually coming together, that you want to create one version of yourself, let's say, sell you in this kind of, let's say, rose garden there, or as we say, that put the makeup on a bag or something. But then AI or ChatGPT or Perplexity can get all those pieces out there, all those negative comments and links or what else. And I think it's even worse to be just generally negative when perceived outside, that something is wrong, something is not matching, and most likely somebody want to sell you a pig in a bag, that this is something actually really fishy in here. I would even say that would be, for me, if I would be apply somewhere, like the most is kind of like that you are not authentic self, and it's coming out, and now it's coming just out even faster and easier and so on, that I think you need to do this work also in-house, and you just can't, rely on that okay, we fix over, let's say, digital channels or whatever we find outside there.
Renita, so thanks a lot. And I think to summarize a little bit this discussion, for me, it's also very important. Now, I think they are at the moment when we not only to focus on communication, when we talk about employer brand, also to need to focus on the experience on candidate, the employee, and understand what if we promise something, we should be consistent in doing this in all process. So for me, it's Also very important. And now, because really have a situation with perplexity or ChatGPT, when they're looking for the information, it's also about consistency in communication. Because I remember the time when the people just focus on one, two channel, or just the channels which we could control as HR, very easy, and forget what our real power now is inside organization. And as Mike says, we need to make an inbound trust, which help us to promote and shape our employer brand outside, which I think now all the global employer brand conference focused on employee candidate experience and about consistency in everything what we do. And I like one of the previous conference I said, don't look at your employer brand as on a project. This is a big process which you should work with your colleagues every day. So this is, I think, very interesting questions. We will back on our summit in Tashkent. I'm absolutely sure that we'll have a lot of different discussion. But I have next questions for you. And I think today, but I think it's usual now, we have a lot of questions connecting with AI. And the question, what it's about the role of HR in this world of digitalization, the world of AI. How is the role of HR changing? What should HR be prepared as a function? Renita, could you start? And Mike, also I'll ask you to add something, your ideas. Renita, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that probably nobody knows the real answer what's coming up there. To be honest, there be changed. I mean, we just need to be ready to change, and I think learn and understand technology as much we can. But I think more and more, it's good part that we need to do strategical decisions and help out organizations strategically to grow, because you can use technology and AI for all of those kind of manual tasks, and in future I think nobody will do those kind of things anymore. It means also that if you then hire somebody who would be like HR specialist or recruiter, some of the skills was very important back in time are not important anymore, because everybody can do those things with the tools, and the tools are doing it, and here I will do those things for you, meaning that you need to create value like more strategically, that of the business would say, okay, how you help out with your humans, or like what is the growth paths, or let's say how we can build the best possible team together, which actually would bring us over the business outcome what we need, and so on. That maybe this is the change that we're always asking. I mean, I know about you, but I always heard that HR want to be, in the table with others, that, we want to be there. I think it's a great chance now to be and say that, okay, we bring the technology in, which gonna do the things which we were like overwhelmed or, manually did everyday basis. I mean, I'm super happy that robot would do all of those things, which I hate manual work and things which are boring for me, that we could actually bring a real value to the companies and see that how our culture works, how our people actually can thrive, and so on and so on. And of course, I think I said that we need to be constantly learning to do those new things and up to technology, and not because otherwise, yes, if you like do exact the same thing what the chatbot can do, then for sure I agree that this position will not be needed in the future. I'm actually, happy to be more strategical, help out on, that field, that do actually those kind of like, very repetitive boring things, because in HR are lots of those kind of things, which is part of our everyday work. That I would say, I think Mike can definitely add on something from his side or branding side.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you think are reshaping the HR role?
Yeah, look, I think I'm less optimistic than Renita.
I'm
Look,
always the optimist.
yeah, and I'm a pessimist. But look, tech, what is tech? Tech is scale, it's speed, it's efficiency, and it's lower cost. It's cheaper to get a piece of technology and then to hire people. Okay, and these are things that organizations want, right? And I think it'll be too tempting for organizations. Humans are judgment, empathy, ethics. There's still a place for all of that. But I think my prediction, this is my personal prediction, is that we will see a shrinkage of HR teams. All of the processes that Renita just outlined, manually going through CVs and interviewing people and going through feedback loops and taking notes. We've seen, in the blink of an eye, that's been automated, and we're all so happy that we've got these tools now, because we're like, how much more work can we do? That's fantastic. And look, Renita's right in that we just don't know. And I've seen predictions right the way through from, dystopia and no one having a job through to, the other end of the scale where everyone keeps their job and they're more productive than ever and happier than ever. I put it somewhere slightly towards the negative side, actually. My prediction, speaking not to HR, but to business leaders, is that the temptation to automate, save money, be more efficient is going to be too tempting. So I think HR's focus will shift. I think all the transactional HR work is going to go quite quickly. And I think HR's role will become, a little bit more human-centered, but that just means there's going to be less to do. So yeah, I think we're about to see some change. And I think 26, 27 are going to be really, really big years, but we're all going to find out sort of just how deep the rabbit hole goes on that one. But yeah, that's what I think is coming. That's my personal take on it. So
maybe just one add-on, because I was also in some technology event in Berlin, when we talk about also the tech leaders were talking about what they see, and is it like utopia or dystopia exactly? And they were also discussing that is it the future of one founder unicorns, that everything else is done by automation or machines and so on, and that's the thing. But then they came back for that and say, but it's very nice to build together, and if we can't build together, then it's some of the fun or some of this human aspect of building, let's say, the company is gone. But it was actually very interesting. It was exactly between those two things that is the future, one person, one founder, unicorns.
Yeah, totally. But how many of those can you have? Not everyone can have an amazing idea and create an agentic AI product. I mean, that's going to be the 1%, not the 99%. So if that's the future, we should be somewhat concerned that there won't be enough to go around. And that's why I think a lot of AI companies are talking about things like universal basic income and stuff like that, because they are worried that the potential to cause, mass unemployment amongst the professional working white collar workers is quite high, and people are wrestling with that possibility. So right now we just don't know. We just don't know. We just hope it's the more positive version of events. That's it.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of discussion about future jobs and what we should be prepared and what we should prepare. For example, our children first. As a parents, we have a lot of worries about the future, and also as HR worries about the future of the company, what we should prepare in place, because I think nobody's like the situation that you need to say goodbye to your ex-employee. I think all HR don't like this, but that's why there are a lot of questions how we could prepare HR role for transformation. And I want for that question a little bit switch on to the other topics from AI, and then back will cover all the topics, then talking about the future of HR. My next question is, if we talk about any other important things for the HR and for the people, about also other trends, as because people that mentioned us, about flexibility of work, about well-being, about career growth, and for me, that's all I could add. It's about multi-generational workplaces. So what, and also about sustainability topics. Now it's also part of HR responsibilities, and we should focus also on it. What any other trends you think now is also important for HR, and they need also remember about them when they redesign and refocus our HR function? Mike, could you start?
Yeah, okay. So I think you mentioned a lot of the good ones. And actually, Renita touched on this quite a bit, when she talked about burnout and wellness. So I see burnout and wellness as sort of two sides of the same coin. And the answer to burnout, or this sort of problem that seemed to be swelling and coming out of nowhere, everyone talking about burnout all of a sudden, and then the conversation shifted to the solution, which was wellness. We got to take care of our employees. And I've looked at the data, and I've looked at this, and do any of us believe that the younger generation work harder or have any more right to be burnt out than ourselves, our parents? Like, I don't think that's what we're seeing. I don't think people necessarily work harder now, and it's too much, and they can't handle it, they're burned out. I think probably they're on par, but I think the experience has shifted. I think when the trust has gone, it's eroded. I think when people don't feel as secure, no one, we used to have jobs for life. These days people were job hopping all the time. Now people are worried about redundancy. I think that's what causes burnout. I think if you don't have trust, psychological safety, you're worried about AI taking your job or being laid off, I think that's a stressful situation, and you probably overcompensate and you feel burned out. I think that's something that is going to happen, and that's probably even like a societal thing, where people feel insecure, don't know what's coming down the line, and how much of that falls on workplaces is really a debate we could have all day. I think some of that is down to the individual. The one I would really tap into a little bit, though, is something that I think is going to be very hard to avoid, is upskilling and reskilling. And I find this a really difficult conversation to have with people, because if you think about it, like if you're me, you're in your mid-40s, and if someone comes to you and says, well, your profession doesn't exist anymore, we don't need people like you anymore, you need to reskill and do something else, you're like, I've just spent 30 years doing this, and you seriously expect me to learn something new and start from the bottom? It's like it's a very difficult thing to sort of broach, and I don't really know if anyone's really cracked that yet. And I was at a conference the other day, they were talking about internships for people in their 40s and 50s, like internships for old people who go and intern at companies. And I thought, actually, well, that's a pretty good practical solution. But that's what it's coming down to now. All those years of experience kind of being wiped out. And I think we really have to get our heads around, what does reskilling mean? How do we reskill people? And what do we reskill them into? How do you choose? Is it down to the individual? Like, because most people are like, well, what should I be doing? That people don't really know. And there's article after article and expert, out there saying these are the careers of the future, but we just don't know. Do we all train to be plumbers tomorrow? So I think reskilling is going to be a central topic. I think it's something that could potentially be helped with tech. I know we're not talking about tech right now, but I mean, if you need to learn something new in a hurry, I think some of the new learning tools would be helpful. But I think that's the one that people are going to have to wrestle with. And I've heard a lot of people speak about it, write about it, and I've not seen anything that I'm really buying into yet in terms of the whole reskilling debate. Like, what does it mean? If you're a company and you can't get the skills you need, and people say, well, you've got to reskill your workforce. What? How? Okay, you've got to be really, really clear about those skills and how to pivot the people that you've got, if that's what you want to do, into them rather than out of the business. So that will be good for people, but I think it's very, very challenging. And I think a lot of organizations are probably going to wrestle with this. So you want to call it a trend or a challenge, but I think this is going to be a top discussion for HR leaders in the next 1 or 2 years, actually.
Mike, I'm absolutely agree with you, and I want to add something for your first part and talk about psychological safety. For me now, for example, it's a very important topic, especially I want to share in Brazil. We have a special law now which regulated all the potential psychological risks for employers. And now it's not just for the future, it's just nice to have to work about psychological safety of your employers. It's a responsibility for HR. So we have a lot of different events when we discuss this law and how we could implement its law. It's about like preventing some endurance, physical endurance, injuries on our job, and also now we need to prevent some psychological problems for our employees, and now it's reality. It's not for the future, and I think it's also could add some cases for discussion. And Renita, for you, the same questions, but I want to a little bit more emphasize. But in Europe also we met a situation where people ask when we talk about ESG, well-being, career growth, flexibility. People see what, for example, in Europe, a lot of candidates ask more and more about this. And what should HR, what should company do with this expectation from one side, and what HR do from the company side for keeping company from one side as attractive employer, and the other side as effective organization. What could you?
Yeah, let's say maybe we jump in flexibility. It's very close to my heart. I mean, I have leading people part, I think now 6 years of totally remote teams. I am location free for 3 years or something, and now it would be, I think, very tough for me. And this is a huge negotiation point for me, that if somebody would say that, hey, Renita, now you need to go and sit in office, this open office with all of these people, that definitely also like a negotiation point, because when I was still doing hiring, let's say looking for a director of engineering, and I could offer that this role is remote in Europe, and you can do it from, let's say, from Spain or from Portugal and so on, people would negotiate with me like a 30-40% less of salary to get this job, to be location free and, you know, be where they would like to be. And now we see the wave to go back to office. Would say I haven't seen also reasonable proof why companies want them back to office, or are talking about, you know, the productivity or efficiency, but actually not really seeing real proof. Maybe they just have, like, I don't know, fancy office houses which are empty now and can't rent them out and need people back, or maybe it's a leadership position problem that you have used to actually do leadership, seeing that people sitting next to you, and if you need to do leadership remotely, then you need to be levels more intentional how you're doing it. The building trust remotely, it's much more like demanding than doing it, you know, with the face-to-face and so on. There can be very many layers on that. But what I see actually from the candidate side, that they really would not want to go to the office, or they doing jobs where they need to really concentrate. And we were talking about here, like also mental health, and this is like linked to that how, where I can focus, or where can I do my best work. That not means that I shouldn't ever see my team or my team members. No, but those touch points we can actually design as an organization, and then to be intentional. That if we're getting together, what we do then together exactly. Just for example, like as recruitment, you talk a lot all day, and you can have let's say 6-7 interviews. Now, if you're in an open office, how your recruiter's day looks like exactly? Have you thought about this employee's experience? I mean, they can't do it in open room, is it? Meaning that this person comes, goes in this little pods where is no air or whatnot, sit there all day, maybe going in and out, going to restroom, get a coffee, and maybe after like 8 hours, pass out and fall down there. That's it. That was their experience, to be like on site, to be the person, to be with the team. No any kind of actual interaction. That I think we need to a little bit think more how we designing those experiences, and what needed, what not, because that is not for me like really, let's say, smart work, what we did before, that we need now probably think and take those experiences is design something which is like useful, depending of course what you're doing and what's your why as an employee. But I don't see there like really connections why we now suddenly want to do it that way. And of course it depends, do you need talent? Because some cases you are in a location where is no such kind of talent. And this has been my challenge in a few companies I worked. I couldn't ever scale those companies and teams when I needed to look for those skills in that small market next to me, or it wouldn't be just incredibly expensive, or I needed to track them out from my neighbor, meaning a flexibility give you also opportunity to all the markets. I mean, I can hire people in Estonia from Brazil, from, I don't know, Santiago, whatever. There is skills all over the globe, but not enough opportunities also about these people to work. Therefore, I think that I need to think through that piece of flexibility. And what about mental health? And I think there is a question what people might feel, especially like, let's say for a zone I'm coming from, it's this kind of overall uncertainty. I think this is something we feel more because maybe, as Mike said, that people don't, I don't know, work more, but I think we have exposed more to the information through all those digital channels, which we didn't have possibility back in time. And now it comes from, you should be mindful that how much you actually using all that, because it can really, create your anxiety or this or so on, getting all this information, coming, streaming in of everything you open up in online, and getting more and more anxious. You can't concentrate your work if you're thinking maybe, bigger problem or, I don't know, society and world what we living in now. That's more maybe one add on that the piece what Mike was actually talking before on.
Rita, thanks a lot. It's my next question is very interesting questions for you both. It's a situation that could become a futurist for the future, because the question is very interesting. It's looking 5 years ahead. What do you think employer branding will look like? I could give you 1 minute and I could start and direct to what Renita say about working remotely and about the talents which we could attract worldwide. And so I remember the time when an employer branding could mostly be focused on our current market, which is especially regional specific. It's a market that's close to our office, let's say, or our plant. And now when we go outside to a global market, we need to understand what we should work with our local company with global employer brand. So that could be a great shift for us, especially if a company want to attract the best global talents. And it's challenging enough because when I talk now with people who are responsible for employer branding at the global level, there are a lot of challenges for working in the different continents and the different countries and understanding this and understanding the needs people from the world. And so my prediction is, I could start to answer this question. My prediction, for example, maybe for if we talk about the leading companies, independently on which market we are working on, we should be more focused on the global talent market, especially for the some position, and especially because our potential candidates like to move, change location. I like it, like Renita, they like to be location free. Maybe we should understand how to promote, how to build and promote our employer brand for the world. There are a lot of our candidates want to be location free, or they want to work, they fast from a different part of the world independently of our offices in this area. And that's my prediction. And Mike, what do you think about the future, like a futurist for a future of employer branding?
Yeah, well, my hope is that there's a very good future for employer branding because that's where I work. I think that if there is a skills crunch and the right talent becomes harder to land, then nothing is going to be better for a company than being the one place everyone wants to work, right? If you're the place that everyone wants to work, because everyone can throw big salaries at people and fancy things, but at the end of the day, people are going to choose where they go to work. And if you're the top choice, that's going to be really, really important. More important than ever. It's important now, but it will become more important in a very skills scarce economy. Of course, the concern is that if we do have fairly large unemployment among white collar workers, that the demand for employer branding will go down. Fewer companies will need it if there's an oversupply in the market. But the one thing I would say as well, to your point, Tatiana, you could be right. It could be that companies take a more global outlook to staffing in the future than they do now. And certainly we know that borders are, disappearing where hiring is concerned. And actually it's a really different game in, working on a sort of a global employer brand for remote or hybrid workers, because the employment experience is different. I think we're also saying that a lot of those will be sort of gig workers or contingent workers. They're not full-time employees. So the employment experience again is different. Contingent and gig workers don't have that same connection to the employer as a full-time there every day. And it's a different sell. Why would you choose me, this company, as a place to kind of gig than another company? Well, it's a different set of things that you're looking for. So I think that will also change the game a little bit. So if you're right, Tatiana, which you may well be, the game will definitely change. Employer branding will have to adapt for that reality. That's what I think.
Renita, what could you add, like a futurist of employer branding, what could we see for employer branding in the future of maybe 5 years ahead?
Yeah, I would also be happy to see that this global go more in the play, because I think would be amazing if we can actually create more opportunities in the market in talent where they actually don't have the access now for a bigger pool of opportunities. But I think thing's right, it's gonna be more challenging, because you can actually think of like the headquarters, like employer branding or messaging or culture and so on. Even now, if you have companies, for example, somebody have a headquarters in Germany and then they acquire companies in India or Australia or Japan, the culture or how it's actually perceived the company might be very different. And we need to maybe dive in then also like in a cultural intelligence piece, that how we actually communicate to this market, these people, because it might be totally different how we would perceive the messages or how we would like to actually be addressed. And sometimes you might even not know what's wrong in there, or why they don't answer or why they not apply, if we not like dig into that or ask them or help them to co-create or give feedback, whatever we build. Because that I see already now happening, that companies who want to go global, sometimes we think, okay, we make this process happen in our headquarters. And then we just say, okay, this is the process now, this is our messaging, and let's give it to everybody globally. From, let's say, Germany, from Uzbekistan to Japan to China. And then we're like, disappointed. Oh, look, it's not working, or they're not understanding what I'm trying to say, or perceiving my brand similarly, or internal communication. It's going to be a huge question on such kind of companies, that how you do it better, that it's not about you, but it's about this other person outside, that how they want to be, treated, how they want to be discussed or communicated. I think this comes to curiosity again in the play that, you can go outside and ask more and so on to build this kind of, let's say, global workforce or really global organizations, which now sometimes we call them global, but actually I would question pieces that are the organization really global, or we like to think of that in headquarters that we are. But yeah, in 5 years, I think I would like to share the optimism that employer brand is still something which grows, and we just somehow getting smarter how to do that. Because for me, one piece which, I don't know, annoys me, or which getting me this kind of, and now I want to rant about it, it's maybe this authentic piece that I think sometimes we learn that we need to use all those techniques to, look something else outside, and we actually not. And there is like it's a big decision to change a job, and somebody will change a job which they had like totally okay job before, and now you buy this thing and it's not true. And unfortunately in job you won't have this 14 days and you can send your tool back to the company, and you will understand that, okay, this what was actually sold to me wasn't any of that. And I think it's a wrong perception in market that we all need to be same, or we need to be, that the amazing is and cool, or some place we want to work is same to everybody. It's not, as we're all different. We want to do different things, and I might be liking a gig economy and global companies and be fully remote. But I have friends who actually ask me that, Renita, are you crazy? How can you live like this? That's also like, different scenarios or different companies for different people. That's why I hope that employer brand in the future will be really more authentic and more honest about, and maybe more, let's say, have more grit, and they really talk that who I am, and, attract the right people to the right company.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree about honesty. I think it's now it's a base for employer branding, and in the era of social media, as we discussed, in the era of attracting our employees as ambassadors for promoting company, we really could not become just to say good things, because we really need to say that truly things about the company. And I could add one maybe more prediction based on what Mike said some minutes ago. It's about and it's about career growth, because it's also important about working with people. It's what now we mostly focus on the career growth and education. But I think maybe in the future we a great employer brand would be focused on the reskilling people and for improving their capitalization, their own market capitalization. Also, it's about a situation when, for example, when we talk about ambassador, you could improve your personal brand if you promote the company brands. It will improve your personal capitalization on the market, your visibility, your impact on the market in your role. So and we talk about reskilling. We also talk about you could be ready, and you will have possibilities for changing your role inside the organization, for changing a job, for designing a job based on the company's goals, and the company will help you. So I think in the future, we will talk about not only the company capitalization, but maybe we will also talk about employer branding, about the people capitalization. As for me, the great employer brand really and Renita as a recruiter could say me it's a real situation, but the great employer brand also add to the personal capitalization. So the great company will give this opportunity, but not only because it's a great company, but because it helps them to promote themselves more than a person, not than just a small part of the organization. Maybe the greatest employer brand will help their employees to become more people in the world of technology. Colleagues, our conversation was very fruitful, and I have one last question for you, because it's a lot of ideas I mark them on the paper for thinking about them in the future. And as I said, I think we could prepare a great article based on our conversation, because they mentioned a lot of very interesting things. And the last question is for you. What your 1, 2, 3 main tips for the HR, for the companies who want to start to transform the HR function to meeting this new labor market, with this new market where we see a lot of digitalization, a lot of AI, and a lot of challenging. What are your 1, 2, 3 main tips for HR? Mike, could you start, please?
All right. Okay. I'm going to give 2. The first one is a practical one. It's fix your geo. Okay. So if you haven't done this already, go into your favorite AI, ask it what it's like to work at your company, ask it what it's like to work at your company compared to some of your main talent rivals, see what it says and see where it's pulling the information from, and make sure it's looking good. If it's not, you can talk to me or anyone else and make sure that's good. That's a practical thing you can do, and I would jump right on that. Something a little more, less easy to do is focus on trust. Okay, so if you think trust is high in your organization, well, one, you might want to check that. But if that is the case, put safeguards in place. Keep it that way. If you feel that trust is low, and actually the data is that most business leaders feel that trust is higher than it actually is. So the reality is it's probably lower than you think it is in the ranks. Understand it and take steps to rebuild the trust. Okay, and with that comes psychological safety. With that comes, all the other benefits of higher engagement, less regretted loss, all of those things. And there's a lot you can do. In fact, we put out a white paper about a month ago on rebuilding trust. And I think there's a lot of things that people can do throughout the organization to get trust back to a better place. I think those are going to be the really important, just sort of macro thing that you need to do as a sort of an HR leader with an organization. And then, of course, start having the upskilling conversation. Okay, maybe get a roadmap in place, maybe understand what are the skills that you need and how might you be able to access them through the talent we've already got. They would be mine.
Mike, thanks a lot. Renita, what is your?
Yeah, I go with Mike with let's fix something in the other side also. Like I would say, map your processes and fix it, because then you can actually see, okay, this is my process, whatever it's recruitment, onboarding, performance management, whatever it is, that I have it, and okay, where then technology can help me, and write it down, because you need to do the prep work for technology, because you can't just throw those things on the processes which are not working. And the other thing would be, creating those learning experiences together. That maybe you're not trying everybody there in a corner, but you can actually create the learning experiences to actually learn about new tech, AI, test together, and supporting each other on this kind of constant learning, to be curious, to ask questions, to test things. Because it helps, then you are also creating those kind of environments or little communities or groups inside the organization that you're not alone with that, and you can learn from each other, which is going to be much more faster. Saying, okay, I test that thing and worked out just well, and you can support each other on this learning, which can be a little bit overwhelming maybe alone, and then help all organization to skill up on that. But I would say that the homework, let's do the homework on on the processes and documentation, that all this machine learning can actually really, really help to do a better job.
Renita, Mike, thanks a lot for your participation, for our dialogue. I think it's a really great dialogue because it's for me it's full of insights, like all the dialogues with our jury member. It's great what we could do this remotely. Hope to have one day's possibility to have a conversation offline. We have this possibility with Renita in the past. Hope to have this possibility in the future. That Mike also hope to see you one day and this great fruitful conversation. And I want to invite again our audience for the offline conversation in Tashkent, 10th of October, for our summit for discussion with all different topics. Much of them we covered today, and discuss about the future of HR, discuss about the current situation and about transformation, what we could and should do right now for the better future for us, for our companies, and for our employees. Thanks a lot for participation, and hope to see you again and again. And thanks a lot for all you do for our EMBRAS award.
Thanks, Tatiana. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Mike, next time in Tashkent. Yes, next year.
Absolutely.